Hello, Brave Nation, and welcome in to Episode 8 of BraveHawk Talk on the UNCP Sports Network. I'm John Gross, and as always, so grateful to have all of you joining us for today's episode. An awesome show on tap for all of you. We will start off with the big news on campus. UNC Pembroke will be joining Conference Carolinas beginning of the 2021-2022 athletic year. We start off today's show by talking with UNC Pembroke Director of Athletics Dick Christy about the big move, which, amongst other things, will put 15 of UNCP's 16 teams, that's all varsity sports at UNCP minus football, in the same conference. So exciting developments on campus. We will talk to UNCP Director of Athletics Dick Christy about that. And then later on in the show, we're joined by somebody who is dominant both on and off the playing surface here at her time at Pembroke. That's Katy Ryan of the UNCP soccer team. But again, we start off with the big news. UNCP announcing a move to Conference Carolinas starting in 2021-2022. Here is Dick Christy on BraveHawk Talk. Dick, thank you so much for joining me today on BraveHawk Talk. Obviously, some major news coming out yesterday with UNCP announcing that 15 of its 16 varsity sports will be joining Conference Carolinas starting in the 2021-2022 season. First of all, congratulations. I know that is a big move, so congratulations.
Thanks, John. Excited for all of our UNCP community. It's been a couple months in the works, and my plan was to be able to get face to face with our athletes. I had really looked forward to that moment, but we're in the situation we're in, and we had to do it digitally yesterday, and I think it went as well as could be expected.
As you said, this is something that has kind of been in the works for some time. So can you talk a little bit about the process, going back from the initial interest to yesterday, the official announcement?
Started in the fall. I had an AD colleague in Conference Carolinas who had just kind of casually asked, if that's something that he thought would be a fit for UNCP. And I said, I knew very quickly that it was a great geographic fit and very familiar with the institutions. But I said, I don't know. You guys are under new leadership. I said, we really would have to know more facts. And sometime before Christmas, the commissioner of Conference Carolina and I touched base and got to know each other a little bit, talked about our backgrounds, and he kind of talked about where he was trying to take the league and what was on the horizon. And, it was really passionate. It was interesting. And he had a lot of good data and a great presentation and offered to come on a site visit. So a little before Christmas, UNCP had a site visit from Conference Carolinas, and it's really progressed steadily from there. And obviously when Francis Marion came on their radar and moved along through the process quickly, that made it even better fit and even more attractive for us.
And you talked about it a bit in the press conference yesterday, but what were some of the things that stood out about Conference Carolinas that led for UNCP to join?
I think the fact that you got 5 North Carolina rivals now. You add Francis Marion, and you add 5 more South Carolina schools. If you looked at our record historically against Conference Carolinas, we've had great competition. It's been a really good matchup. They've been reasonable trips, and we have the opportunity to engage our fan base in those games. So, as I said in the press conference yesterday, when you talk to the old guard of UNCP and our donors and our former athletes, all their old war stories talk about playing Mount Olive and Atlantic Christian and Belmont Abbey, Lees McRae. So getting back to that historical matchup, it ties together the history of UNCP. It puts us in a better financial position moving forward, and my belief is that we'll have an opportunity to compete for region championships and go to the postseason, and that's ultimately our goal.
And as you mentioned, when you look back through UNCP's history, there is a history with Conference Carolinas from 76 to 92. It was then Pembroke State was a member of the Carolinas Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, and during that time, Braves won 32 conference championships in that 17-year span. Have you been able to talk with some of those past coaches and student athletes since the announcement? And if so, what has their reaction been to the decision?
Well, I got to give you and our external team a lot of credit. You guys did a great job on social media and staying engaged with our fan base and staying involved as people interacted with the news. I have had a number of phone calls and texts from alums and trustees and former athletes, all really excited. So that's encouraging. Trying to make sure that this new era is as successful and as memorable as the last one.
Francis Marion, as we've discussed, also making that move with UNCP to Conference Carolinas. It's two programs that are friendly rivals and obviously kind of go hand in hand with each other, just being right down I-95. How important was it that Francis Marion would also be joining the conference with UNCP?
Well, as Conference Carolinas was talking to UNCP early on, it's an all-private school league. While they are very like-minded institutions and institutions we're very familiar with, there are differences between public and private schools. And when Conference Carolinas aggressively went after Francis Marion, I think it showed, philosophically just how open-minded they were, and that public versus private was not going to be an issue. And, I think it really showed the strategic direction that the league was trying to go in. So aside from the fact that we are great partners and friends in similar institutions with Francis Marion, that stuff's all icing on the cake. But I think what it really showed was Conference Carolina's dedication to a bigger vision and really trying to make their league as good as it can be.
And with this move, certainly some financial benefits as well. When you took over as AD at UNCP, the expenditure per student athlete ranked last in the Peach Belt Conference, but now making this move, it puts UNCP in the top 4 in the Conference Carolinas in terms of expenditures per student athletes. What will that result in for UNCP student athletes?
Well, I think, it doesn't really change our total investment. How much money we raise, the support we're able to get from our university and from our students, that's going to dictate what our investment is. But as you look at your conference peers and where you sit, we can now invest a much lower percentage in travel, a much lower percentage in gas that burns up down the road. And now that money can be reinvested in the student experience, whether it's, student support, study hall, apparel, whatever it is and whatever the strategic need for that team is. We now have a little bit more flexibility with the resources that we invest. So, our total investment is going to matter in how much money we can raise and how well we can do in the community. But how we can distribute that money now has a lot more flexibility.
And one of the questions that came up during yesterday's press conference was about football, and UNCP will stay in the Mountain East Conference for football. Again, the 15 other varsity sports will be joining the Conference Carolinas. But there are a handful of Conference Carolinas programs that do have football teams. They're starting to pop up really over the last few years. Commissioner Colvin addressed it yesterday, but what would the process look like for maybe starting, or why is Conference Carolinas not a football conference yet, or what would that process look like for it to become one?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, there's 5 schools that have football. That's going to be a need moving forward, I think, as a league, as you get more interest and as you get more members who have it. Fortunately for our Conference Carolinas members, I think everybody has kind of landed on a home. I know Erskine is just getting off the ground, but Barton has a scheduling agreement with the SAC. North Greenville is in the Gulf South Conference. Chowan is in the CIAA. We have a partnership with the Mountain East. So everybody kind of has a home at this point. If there were more schools in the league that could get football online, very quickly you could get where it was viable to have a Conference Carolinas football championship.
Dick, thank you so much for joining me. Congratulations again on the historic move to Conference Carolinas, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Thanks for your role in it.
Big thank you again to Dick Christy, UNCP's Director of Athletics, for joining me on today's podcast. And congratulations on the move to Conference Carolinas. Obviously, an exciting future in store for the athletic department here at UNCP. Up next, Katy Ryan of the UNCP soccer team has a very interesting story, including being born overseas, in fact, across the Pacific Ocean. And she also has some exciting plans in store after her time at UNCP. Thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. First off, how have you been over the last few weeks?
I've been good. Been keeping busy doing my work and then just kind of going on runs and fishing. But it's been quiet, but I've been keeping busy.
Online classes, right? How has that transition been?
Yeah, it's doing well. All my teachers, they're working good with all the students, and we're using WebEx mainly. And we're keeping in touch, and there hasn't been too many issues. Everything's been going pretty smooth. So I like it.
Cool. So taking a look at yourself now, you were born in Japan, right? You lived there for a year?
Right.
What's the background behind that?
My dad was actually stationed there when he was in the Marine Corps, and then our mother had us when we were over there. I think they had been there already for a year and a half, and then we were born, stayed another year, and then moved back to the States.
Have you been back to Japan since then, since you left after 1 year?
I haven't, but I definitely want to at some point find my way back there and at least visit for a little bit.
I have to say, Japan is on the top of my travel list, without a doubt. I love Japanese food, I love Japanese culture,
Yep.
And that's one place that I absolutely want to go, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah. It's gorgeous, too.
Yes, and I have so much history there, and I don't know, I would just absolutely love to go there. But I'm sure one day you will certainly be back. So, you put together quite the career here at UNCP, but before we dive into your time in Pembroke, let's take a look back at kind of how you got started playing soccer. Do you remember when you first started playing and what piqued your interest in the sport?
Well, our brother played before us, and he was like 3 years older, so we would always be playing when we were younger with each other. And we played on like a U4 soccer team, and our dad coached us, and he was pretty much our coach all the way up until like our middle school club teams and everything. And then we actually had like a hired club professional coach kind of person that came and coached us. But we've always been playing since we were young, and I don't think we ever took a year off or stopped, so it's been good.
And I know you played some other sports in high school. You played basketball,
Right.
volleyball, track and fields. What was it about soccer, though, that made you want to pursue that beyond the other sports?
Well, that was the one sport that we played in high school as well as like a travel team. So I think, we just had an opportunity to go after that. With basketball, we got recruited once, and it was after we got committed to Pembroke, and basketball wasn't really going to be one of our big options. And I think soccer, giving us the chance when we both got recruited, it was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely it,
Now, you keep using the terms we, us, and our, and for those of our listeners who don't know, you do have a twin sister, Gina, who you played with at UNCP and then obviously have played with throughout your life. Have you ever played on different teams?
We did briefly. So freshman year of high school, she was solely varsity, and then I was just dual rostered, so I would come up and play a couple games. And then she actually got to guest roster on some of the older teams for a different club of some girls from our high school that played with Gina, and they would ask her to play. So when she was on another team, I usually would come out and then just kind of watch her play and support her. But that was probably the only time we've ever been on a separate team.
So you've never actually played against each other?
No, not unless it was just a little scrimmage at practice. We've always been on the same team.
And has it always been defense and goalie?
Yeah, for her, she's been a goalie since, they created goalies at whatever age that is, you get them. And then for me, I kind of played everywhere. I played defense mainly, and then, some games I'd get thrown up front or in the midfield, just kind of fill in extra positions if we needed them. And then I kind of settled into being a sole defender probably my 8th grade, and then into high school it was like, all right, this is your position. It's going to be a defender.
And obviously playing in the back line, I mean, you are the last line of defense before the goalkeeper, but being that you obviously know that the goalie that you played with for most of your life so well, how I guess comforting is it to know that you have your sister Annette behind you?
I mean, I love it. I think I know how good she is, and I know what all her capabilities and the shots she can save. So I know, if something happens and we get broken down in the defense, that she is going to be, going to save the shot if one gets off. And she gets on me the hardest, but I think it's good. I think when she gets on me, the other girls hear her, and it'll help everybody else step up. She doesn't mind saying anything in the world. She won't hold back against me. So I think it helps and everything, and we all trust her.
I feel like most twins have some sort of twin story. Do you and Gina have a twin story, or maybe multiple?
Well, there's probably one, and it was like we were in middle school, and everyone was like asking, like, have we ever switched classes or anything? And we're like, no, you should do it, you should do it. So in middle school, we attempted to do it. So we switched our first period classes, and then one of us ended up having a quiz or something, and so we both used the bathroom and had to switch back. We didn't last long for that, but that was probably our biggest attempt at trying to trick our teachers.
Wow, because I remember I went to school with a few sets of twins, and I think early on there were a couple instances of that happening, but you two obviously by the books in that regard. Now, taking a look at your career here at UNCP, you come in as a freshman, make 5 starts your freshman year, but really it was the transition from your freshman to sophomore year that your playing time really increased, and you had 5 shots on goal. What was it between the freshman and sophomore year that led to your development and led to you getting more playing time?
Freshman year, we were kind of in and out of switching different players in that defensive, that left back position. And coaches, they finally gave me a chance against Armstrong. And funny thing was, the first 5 minutes I was in, they scored a goal on my side, and I was like, well, there's that. I finally get put in, and I was like, all right, this is going to be the end of that. But they left me in, they trusted me for that. And then I think really it was the spring season during freshman year where Coach Lars really started to and Coach Brittany, how I was playing in the left back. We played a lot of the D1 schools in the spring season. It's just scrimmaging, and I think it was I can't remember what schools, either Western Carolina or one of those schools we played, and they had a really strong right forward that was on my side, and I was able to keep up with her and play against her really well. I think Lars really liked that and saw that this is going to be the player that's going to fill this position for us.
So you make your way into the rotation 2017, and then comes the conference championship. What was that like to win it all?
That was unbelievable. It was amazing. I knew going into that 2017 season we were going to be good. We had all spring of the year before, and we knew we only had 2 incoming freshmen. That was Riley and Pittman. And we knew that that's going to be an easy transition to get them to flow with our group. So we had that chemistry that was just going to be, it was going to be strong for us in the season. And when we went through that season, we were playing and doing so well. We got to the conference tournament, and we knew that, this is going to be where we make our mark. And having the year before, us not make it into the NCAAs, that really, I think, gave us the drive and the will to, put everything forward to all these games and not quit and just finish out the season, try to get that win in the conference championship season, and then get into the NCAAs and do well. But I think it was the chemistry and everything that we just did so well with.
One thing I've noticed about the soccer program at UNCP is and I haven't been here too long, but just the resiliency. You mentioned missing out in the tournament one year, then the next year winning the conference tournament. I know a couple of years ago just on the outside looking into the NCAA tournament, and then this past year you make the NCAA tournament. So what is it about this program that is able to kind of channel maybe the frustration and the anger from missing out on something into a positive?
I think we set our goals in the beginning of the season, and when you missed out on the year before, when you full-heartedly believed that you had a field ticket to the NCAA, you want to try to prove yourself the next year. We have a feeling that we get overlooked a little bit as being a small school. We're in the Peach Belt, so we try to make a point to the NCAA and prove that we deserve to go into the NCAA tournament, and we're gonna make you put us there. So we just strive throughout preseason, over summer, your workouts. You're just looking for that goal of trying to prove this to the NCAA, the conference, that we're good enough to be in the NCAA, and we're going to come out and show you that.
Obviously, a lot of success on the fields, multiple times named to the Peach Belt all-conference team, but the success transcended the field. It was in the classroom as well. Conference all-academic team multiple times. This past year, you were an academic All-American, United Soccer Coaches Scholar All-American. So what does the academic side of things mean to you? Because clearly that's something that you really value.
Yeah, I know I want to keep my grades up and as high as I can be, because I knew from going into college that I wanted to go on to a professional school. And so I knew I had to keep my grades good, and I think Pembroke gave me that opportunity to play soccer as well as focus on my grades. And, just being recognized as that was really humbling, and I just loved that so much, and getting to experience all that, it was just great.
And now that your career at UNCP and your time at UNCP is coming to an end, I know you have some very exciting future plans, which we'll get to in a minute, but when you look back at your time at UNCP, how do you assess your career here?
I think it's the best it could have been. Being a college athlete going in, I think the way my career went, it just kept going up the whole time. In my opinion, I don't think I ever went, slowed down. I think it just continued to get better and better, and I think that's how, everyone's college experience should be. It was just amazing. Going from a freshman, not playing so much, looking up to the upperclassmen and the seniors, and then getting to be my senior year and getting all the accolades I did, and going back to the NCAA for a second time. It was incredible in my opinion.
So you obviously have this academic success at UNCP, and then that sets you up for some opportunities beyond UNCP, and I know that you were headed up to Chapel Hill next year. If you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm going to start the Doctorate of Pharmacy program there at the Echelon School of Pharmacy in Chapel Hill, and they just got ranked #1 pharmacy school in the nation by whoever does the rankings, but I'm excited to get in there. I went out on a leap to apply there, not really thinking I'd get in, but, just kind of giving a chance, maybe they'll let me in, and they did, and I'm super excited to start my future there and see where that takes me and everything.
And what is it about the pharmaceutical industry that makes you, want to get into it?
Well, when I was choosing my original major for just my undergrad, I knew it was going to be chemistry or biology. And so when I knew it was going to be that, I started looking into what kind of professional schools I could go into. And when pharmacy popped up, one of my volleyball coach's husband, he did pharmacy. And so I was like, okay, I know about it. And I started researching it some. And I just like the idea of being able to go on either side, whether I'm working at an actual pharmacy and dealing patients, their prescriptions and stuff, or going into the more science part where I'm developing drugs. I think that would be really neat, and I just like the idea of doing that kind of thing and helping others. And
do you have a dream job? If you could pick any job in that field, what do you have one in mind?
Well, I think what would be the coolest thing, which I didn't even know was possible, was this girl's from Carolina. She did state veterinary undergrad and then came to pharmacy school to be a pharmacist at a zoo. And I think that would be pretty sweet. But I don't know if that's where I'm going to go, but that would be awesome if you could do that. And, because you get to hang out with some little baby animals and everything. But I think for me, I think it'd be fun to go into the developing of drugs aspect of it and trying to find new medicines and prescriptions for people like that.
And that's certainly important now more than ever to be finding that. All right, so we like to end with some fun questions, and I'll throw you one here. You step outside the office, you find a lottery ticket, you end up winning $10 million. What would you do with that lottery ticket? I mean, you could try to find the owner of it, you could keep it for yourself, you could buy something as well. What would you do?
Oh, man. I'd probably go cash it in, and then, man, I'd probably go travel somewhere like Australia. I think I'd fly out to Australia and spend a good old vacation there and enjoy myself. I think that'd be it.
Very nice. Well, that sounds like an awesome trip to the land down under.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Katy, I really, really appreciate it. Congratulations on a phenomenal career here at UNCP, both on and off the field.
Thank you.
And we look forward to the success that you'll be having next year at Chapel Hill and beyond.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for hopping on. And that brings us to the end of our 8th episode of BraveHawk Talk. Thank you so much to UNCP's athletic director, Mr. Dick Christy, and to Katy Ryan of the UNC Pembroke soccer team. We'll be back on Monday with a brand new episode. In the meantime, make sure to stay up to date on all things UNC Pembroke athletics by visiting us on our website, uncpbraves.com, and follow us on social media as well. You can like us on Facebook under UNCP Athletics and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok at UNCP_sports. Thanks again for joining me. I'm John Gross. We'll talk to you again Monday.